Sports. We are the Fourth. We are South.
Two of baseball's brightest pitching stars shine in Atlanta tonight. The Marlins' Jose Fernandez has taken the baseball world by storm. The 21-year-old phenom from Cuba has been the best pitcher in the game in the second half of the season. He's 5-0 with a 1.33 ERA, and his enthusiasm almost matches his stuff. The Braves counter with 22-year-old Julio Teheran, the Cartagena, Colombia native. He's grown up before our eyes this year, and like Fernandez, has become a stopper for the Braves. It's a dream pitching matchup in the opener of this three-game weekend series. Watch along with us and enjoy. It's another beautiful night for baseball in Atlanta and at Turner Field, where Friday night fireworks await and Friday night fastballs too. A great pitching matchup featuring the Marlins and the Atlanta Braves. It's game one of our three-game weekend set, and it starts right now. Hi again, friends, with Joe Simpson, Chip Carey. Welcome back to the ballpark. The Braves just swept the Cleveland Indians, and now it's Fernandez versus Teheran for the very first time we see the Marlins right-hander.
It'll be a great matchup. Both these guys have a lot of similarities. 21-year-old Fernandez, 22-year-old Teheran. They do a lot of things really well, including pitch well lately. The month of August, Jose has been terrific, undefeated. Julio Teheran, outstanding in the post-All-Star break work that he's put in. How about this? They both, in working 6 or more innings, Teheran 17 or 19 out of 25 games, Fernandez 17 out of 25. In terms of games where they've allowed 1 run or none, 13 times Fernandez, 12 times Teheran. There are a lot of similarities for both of them in terms of their numbers all year long. You expect it to be a low-scoring game tonight.
And both the Marlins and Braves are 16-9 in games started by the starting pitchers tonight. So, indeed, very similar styles, very similar results. We'll hope the Braves make it 4 in a row to start the homestand here in Atlanta tonight. It's Friday night. We're facing the Fish, and we'll have your starting lineups from Turner Field right after this. For the Marlins. Game time temperature 84 degrees, but still very humid. Forecast for partly cloudy skies. Should be a beautiful night for baseball here at home. Tough times for the Marlins. They've dropped 8 of their last 9 games, and a season-long problem for them has been scoring runs. They have the worst offense in the National League this year. Christian Yelich leads off their Toyota starting 9. Donovan Solano, Giancarlo Stanton hits third. Ruggiano, Logan Morrison, and Placido Polanco in the middle of the attack, with Adaini Echeverria at short. Jeff Mathis catching, and fireballing Jose Fernandez pitches and bats ninth.
For Julio Teheran, his 26th start of the year, 6'2", 175 out of Colombia. 2 starts already this year against the Fish, and he's pitched well. 1-0 in those 2 starts with a sub-3 ERA. 4 walks, 10 strikeouts in 12 1/3 innings. His 4 keys to pitching success, well, with all the hype of this matchup, the one thing he can't get caught up in is trying to match Fernandez fastball pitch for pitch. So pitch your game, do what you've been doing all year long, and things will work out. Offensive struggles, that applies to the Marlins. He should be able to, I think, take advantage of some of the weaknesses that they've shown, especially in the second half of the season. They've gone 8 straight games scoring 3 runs or less. They are really pressing.
Does it surprise you, though, how well Miami has played against the Braves here, though, this year?
Yeah, there's no explaining that, really, but they do come here and swing the bats well. They are 3-3 here this year, despite trailing the season series 8-4.
So we'll keep an eye on the Marlins bats. We'll also keep an eye on Mike Winters in his strike zone, with Tim Timmons, Laz Diaz, and Mark Wegner, the umpires, on the bases tonight. That's Christian Yelich. He's the Marlins left fielder. Those numbers since July 23rd, when he came up from AA Jacksonville. Good looking young player. And the first of the night from Tehran misses inside.
Temperature 83 degrees.
Ball 2 to Yelich.
Yelich has been able to hold his own since he got called up. He's just 3 for his last 19, but hitting over 250. His partner that he got called up with, Marisnik, can't say the same for him. He's hitting 184.
Yelich, a #1 pick by the Marlins back in 2010. He was their minor league player of the year in each of his first 2 professional seasons. And he hits a line drive to right field. A leadoff single for Yelich. So let's see if the Marlins try to manufacture a run. For their lack of power and their lack of scoring, they do try to run. See if Atlanta can control the running game, with Yelich at first with 3 stolen bases this year.
Top of the order has been a little chilly, too. I mentioned Yelich was 3 for 19. This guy Solano 4 for his last 23. So they might indeed try something just to try to get an early run.
Solano hitting .251 for the Fish. A couple of homers, 24 runs batted in. That's pulled foul. Strike 1 to Solano.
A lot of the damage done even here at Turner Field when they have split the series, Chip, has been done by the bottom of their order. Echeverria has had good numbers. Logan Morrison, Placido Polanco.
There's an awkward swing. McCann can't find it, but it's in the front of the left-hand batter's box. No harm, no foul. 0-2 your count.
That ball came to rest right on the chalk. Kind of hard to see it.
Yeah, with Polanco.
This ball rolled right out on the chalk.
It's almost the point where Brian McCann would say, we're throwing you a fastball right down the middle. Go ahead and hit it if you can. Swing and a miss. High heat gets Solano swinging. Teheran's first strikeout of the night.
Brian wanted it upstairs, and it was delivered there. Julio's last start against the Cardinals, not a good one. 6 innings, 5 hits, and 5 walks. The 5 walks were a season high. He did have his 8 strikeouts, but he gave up a couple of homers, and that was very costly. Got beat 6-2.
Close play at first. Yelich fortunate to get back. Remember, Teheran has that brilliant pickoff pick. And a strike to Giancarlo Stanton. He's had his share of injuries this year. He's hitting .249. And the Braves have really made life tough. They've given him very little to hit this year.
Yeah, he's just 4 for 34 against Atlanta. But in recent days, he's begun to swing the bat a little bit better. And he's beginning to get his walks again, which tells me he's not overly aggressive early in the count.
And the Braves have been very happy to walk him this year. He's been passed 15 times by the Braves pitching staff in the first 12 games head to head. But that goes to the point I think we've made a couple of times in the inning. There is not a lot of offensive protection for Giancarlo Stanton.
Very little. Ruggiano's the guy today because he's swinging a hot bat, but that's been a revolving door hitting behind Stanton.
Another high fastball. Stanton didn't catch that one. He's struck out. Back-to-back strikeouts for Teheran.
How about that? A 94 from Julio.
So here is Justin Ruggiano. When we last saw the Marlins, he was in the middle of an awful batting slide. In fact, it was a record-setting slide for Ruggiano, but boy, he's picked up the slack since going 0 for 42. That's our Wendy's. Now that's better feature.
Yeah, and since then he's hit .438. That's the highest since August 14th of anybody in baseball. That is better.
Ruggiano was quoted in the South Florida newspapers as saying that his slump was not mechanically related, but he had a mononucleosis-like virus that just absolutely sapped all of his strength. And vitamins, medications have helped take care of that problem, and now he's got his strength back, and obviously the results are showing something's right.
Yeah, his average has gone up 20 points. And 218 may not look like very much to you, but it looks like a great number for Justin when he was hitting $187.
Well, he's got a good fastball tonight.
Sure does.
One ball, 2 strikes. Yelich runs. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. And again, he elevated the fastball in terms of location and velocity. That one at 95 miles an hour. Solano, Stanton, and Ruggiano whiff in the first, and Jose Fernandez comes to the mound in Atlanta. I don't know if that was applicable or not, but 3 strikeouts in the first inning is a great way to start the night.
Airing it out, too.
And here's the offensive lineup that will try to support him tonight. Schaefer, Johnson, and Freeman 1, 2, and 3. Chris Johnson 4th on the Toyota starting 9. McCann, Ugla, B.J. Upton in center. Simmons at short. Tehran pitches and hits 9th.
Fernandez is 10-5, a 2.30 ERA. That's the 3rd best ERA in baseball. But his home road splits not so good on the road. A 3.54 ERA, certainly good enough, but nothing compared to what he does at home. So let's see how he fares tonight here in his first ever start at Turner Field. His Ford keys to pitching success tonight: high gas. He can throw 96 to 98 all through the game, and he's got a Kimbrel-like curve, and those K's are in there for a reason.
You didn't know how to spell?
I kind of know how to spell, but I know that symbol for strikeout is a K, and he's got an outstanding hard curve that's a lot like Craig Kimbrel's. It's in the 85-mile-an-hour range. And he features a changeup too, but not too often. Hasn't needed it.
That was nice and easy at 96.
He just turned 21. 6'2", 240, born in Santa Clara, Cuba.
There's the breaking ball, and Schaefer fouled it away. A ball and 2 strikes for Jordan. Well, this kid's story is really unbelievable. And we'll get to that as the evening progresses. And there's the off-speed pitch. Schaefer missed it, and he's down on strikes in the bottom half of the first inning. It's 166 strikeouts for Fernandez now in 153 rookie innings. Here's his Miami defense. 3 errors in their last 7 games. They're middle of the pack defensively. That's our Home Depot tools from the dugout. Elliott Johnson gets the start in left field for the Braves tonight, and he takes a called strike. And he responds with a rifle shot into the right field corner. Stanton has to go dig the ball out, and Elliott doubles with 1 out.
Funny when you talk about these pitching matchups, and it's like a postseason type matchup with the quality of arms out there. It's sometimes the Mark Lemkes of the world that shine, that come up and get the big hits off the big pitchers, and Elliott Johnson's that type of player.
And he's making the most of his second chance this year in the National League. Elliott's done great work for the Braves. And now Freddie Freeman will be the batter. First pitch swing and a fly ball deep center. Ruggiano going back. Can't find it. It's over the wall and gone.
Somewhere in the scouting report that Jose Fernandez looked at tonight said something about Freddie Freeman and first pitches. He didn't listen. Funny story tonight about Freddie in batting practice today too. Get to it in a second.
2-0 Atlanta, and Chris Johnson bats and fouls 1 back.
Freddie didn't play last night except for 1 at bat, as you remember. And I was telling him as he was starting his BP, I said, 320 some straight innings you played is what they added up. And he goes, well, I got 4 innings off last night. So he took his first round of batting practice, and every pitch he hit was like a duck hook pull to right field or down the first baseline. He came out of the cage and he said, I was trying to hit every one of those pitches to left field. And Brian McCann just busted up laughing.
So he's obviously well rested. A first pitch 2-run homer off Fernandez. Only the 9th home run the Marlins right-handers given up all year.
And he has gone, Fernandez, 8 straight starts allowing 2 runs or less. And tonight he's allowed 2 in the first.
Breaking ball against Chris Johnson. That's 2 strikeouts for Fernandez. And another look at Freeman's homer to center.
High fastball up and away. Fernandez had a long look in there too after the follow through. Surprised perhaps that Freddie put that good a swing on a pitch away from him. Did this land on top of the fence? Could you tell if it landed on top of the fence?
I think it did. It bounced and then went into the well.
Oh yeah.
Actually went over the well into the stands. My mistake. So Brian McCann's the batter. And he shoots one towards center. Ruggiano is there and makes the grab. Wow, what an electric first inning. We saw 5 strikeouts combined by the pitchers, but we also saw Freddie Freeman hit his 17th homer. He's knocked in 87 men, and Atlanta leads by 2 after 1. Face Morrison, Polanco, and Echeverria in the Miami second. We've talked a couple of times about the youth on the mound in tonight's ball game. Youth around the big leagues in pitching categories are Academy Sports and Outdoor Leaderboard.
The youngest pitchers on Major League active rosters start with this guy Fernandez. He just turned 21 a month ago. Jacob Turner, who we will see here tomorrow night, is 22 plus. Paco Rodriguez of the Dodgers, Perez, and then you got the 2 guys for the Braves, Julio Teheran and Alex Wood, both 22 years old. Pretty comparable in number of birthdays for Teheran and Wood, and all outstanding in their own right.
Julio just continues to roll merrily along. He'll face Logan Morrison first, and he takes a called strike. Those are Logan's season numbers. He's done good work against the Braves. 6 hits, including a homer. This one, though, is popped up. Chris Johnson, even with the bag, is under it and back a step or 2, makes the play. 1 away. Well, how demoralizing is that first inning for this Miami club, especially considering their lack of offense?
They know what they've got to do, and they haven't been doing that lately. Started by that guy. That was a loud double he hit.
A strike to Polanco. Julio is going right after these Miami hitters. 19 pitches, 15 strikes so far.
And this is the part of the order I was talking about that all year long against the Braves is giving Atlanta pitchers trouble. He is putting it right where Brian McCann wants it so far. Brian wanted this in the dirt and got it in the dirt.
The high fastball's been effective tonight. Let's see if he goes there. Line drive into center field.
Well, this guy's been around so long, and he's been such a good career hitter. One place you don't want to go is down the middle in the middle end of the plate.
Polanco's 14th hit against the Braves this year, and he's at first for Echeverria. The young Miami shortstop hitting .230.
But hitting better than that against Atlanta. Last 9 games against the Braves, a .361 mark, and he's 2 for 5 off of Tehran.
There's a strike.
Miami's offense. Last in runs, last in average, last in hits, last in doubles, last in homers, last in RBIs, last in slugging and on base percentage.
Which adds up to last place, 31.5 games out of first. And as we mentioned earlier, the first National League team to be officially eliminated this year.
With an X next year, maybe.
Yes.
Trying season for Mike Redmond in his first year as a big league manager.
That's bounced off the plate. Tough play. Simmons makes it on the run. Good play by Andrelton again to get Echeverria. He came streaking in from shortstop and got Adeini by a step.
Echeverria runs well too, so this had to be a quick catch and throw.
So Polanco's the first Marlin in scoring position. Jeff Mathis is the Miami catcher tonight. He's knocked in 25 runs this year.
Got a good breaking ball tonight to go with that fastball. Seven strikeouts in his last 14 at bats for Mathis.
They had another amazing stat in their notes tonight. In the last 10 games, the Marlins have been issued 34 walks. Exactly none of them have scored.
It's almost impossible,
right? Their team record is 40 in a row.
Well, you hate to get greedy with the pitcher on deck, but when a guy's struggling like Mathis has been recently, you don't really try to be that careful here with first base open.
And he just struck out Jeff Mathis and stranded Polanco at second base. 4 strikeouts for Tehran. He enjoys a 2-0 lead early.
On a Friday night, and you can count among that group former NBA coach Stan Van Gundy, who is a very good friend of Freddie Gonzalez.
There's not many people who do what we do. So even though it's different sports, Freddie actually says all the time, smaller ball, same issues, and so we just got to know each other talking about things. He's one of the greatest people in the world, and so we followed him there. And then when he came back with Bobby up here, we're following the Braves. We were still living in Florida when he came to the Marlins. We were thrilled about that. But then when the Marlins fired him, that was it for us in the Marlins. And so now, like tonight is great. Watching the Braves beat the Marlins has been one of my most enjoyable things since that day.
And I add to this, how big of a Braves fan is Stan Van Gundy? Well, I told him we had a trivia question last night on Terry Francona that he probably would have gotten. He says, no, I was watching. I didn't get it, and I felt bad about it. It was a trick question. So Stan Van Gundy definitely enjoying his time here in Braves country. He'll be here all weekend, guys.
That's great, Andre, and he's right. I mean, finally somebody else that understands that we get trick questions all the time.
It's just criminal.
Well, thanks to my partner, he got it right.
Stan would be a great guy to interview on a Sunday day game after a night game when you're tired. Stan, what do you think? Just
we go to the ninth.
We just let him go. That's popped up by Dan Uggla, and one of them to the seats foul.
It's that time of night too that outfielders may have a little problem with a fly ball. A little bit of cloud cover tonight.
Dan takes low. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
One of the things about growing up in Cuba and pitching there, actually played a lot of third base when he was growing up. But we were told to watch him tonight because he doesn't use a rosin. They didn't have rosin bags down there. And he's begun to use it a little bit, but most of the time he'll just rub his hand in the dirt. And as the game goes along, you'll see that dirt accumulate on the side of his pants.
Bounce toward third. Polanco in on the grass and gets to first just ahead of Dan Uggla for out number 1. Well, Fernandez, it's a great story on him in the Grantland website online. And he talked about the improvisation that he had to use. Grab a dried out tree limb to use as a baseball bat. Rocks to throw and to try to hit. They just didn't have the same access to baseball equipment that American little leaguers have, quite obviously. But the amazing part of the life of Jose Fernandez is this. It took him 4 tries before he, as a 15-year-old, along with his mother and sister, fled Cuba on a speedboat. So he was caught 3 other times. As punishment, he was kicked out of school, kicked off his baseball team, and put in prison at 15. They finally made their way to the southern part of Cuba, got on another boat, went across the Gulf of Mexico, and made their way to Mexico. His mother was thrown overboard out of the boat. He jumped into the ocean and carried her on his back to the boat, using his pitching arm as his paddle. Took him 36 hours to get to Mexico. He then got to the U.S. and reunited with his father, who left Cuba earlier. He settled in Tampa, won 2 Florida high school baseball titles, and eventually was drafted by Miami.
Yeah, the story when he got to Tampa, I mean, there was so much that happened in his life before he even got there. But that at his high school tryouts, and it was a very good baseball program that he went to, was that he was in the last group of guys to try out. He was a guy that supposedly was his schoolmates made fun of him, teased him and stuff. He didn't speak any English. He was in the last group of guys to try out and stepped on the mound, was throwing 93, 94, and the coach said, I think we may have a place for you. And from that point forward, he was one of the most popular kids in the school.
At Alonzo High School near Tampa.
That record's going to keep going up. You know what? Scott Olson was pretty good. He just fell off the face of the earth, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Simmons deep short. Echeverria, momentary stumble, but look at his arm. Wow, fine play by Adeiny Echeverria. And the Braves are retired in order in the second. Fernandez will lead off the third. 2-0. Atlanta leads game 1.
Delta to 76884 for a chance to win round trip airfare for two anywhere Delta flies in the continental U.S. plus hotel accommodations and $250 spending cash. We'll announce the winner Monday, September 16th during our Braves telecast. Message and data rates do apply here, so remember that as you are texting to Delta at 76884. Entrants may receive one text message confirming entry. Winner may be contacted by text message. I'm sorry, do I need to do that again? Did you get all that?
I got most of it.
Oh, that's good.
We have another chance later on, maybe.
Really?
Maybe. Never know. Third inning, Teheran versus Fernandez. Jose at the plate with 4 RBIs. He's chatting away in the batter's box. And he's swinging away too, and he hits one a long way out toward right center field, and that's going to get up against the fence. He's thinking about 3. He's going to turn. He's going to try. The throw to third is going to be late. It's a triple.
Boy, he jumped on a high fastball, too. Strong kid. And perfectly split. BJ and Jordan, they had to chase it all the way to the wall for the pitcher running, and that piano got on his back right about halfway to third base, but he did make it. Whoa, that was close. I don't know about that.
Fans sitting in the SunTrust seats down below got to see the replay, and the club level as well. They thought the Braves got Fernandez, but he triples to lead off the inning, and now Yelich. First pitch swing and a strike.
Another look, another angle. He's safe.
High and tight. 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's a statistical oddity. Marlins pitchers have a grand total of 2 triples. Both of them have been hit against the Braves. Fernandez tonight, Jacob Turner in Miami on July 10th. And now Yelich singles to left, and that cuts the lead in half. It's a 2-1 ball game now. Yelich 2 for 2, 9 RBIs.
The target was up again, trying to go after those strikeouts up out of the zone, but that pitch was down.
So Fernandez will look for an oxygen tank, and he'll hope for a long inning. Here's Solano. I'm imagining fans all across Latin America are watching this game with interest tonight. This is a Battle of Colombia. Tehran is from Cartagena. Donovan Solano is from Barranquilla, Colombia. Oh, and 2. A little chopper toward short. Simmons will have one play, and he'll make it. Solano advances Yelich to second with one out, and here's Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton is our cold hard fact, brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light.
Took him only 400 games to get to 100 home runs in his career. You can see by comparison for Ugla and Cabrera, he was way ahead of their pace.
If Giancarlo didn't play baseball, he'd make a heck of a linebacker. 6'6", 240 pounds. Last season, another big year for him. He hit 290. 37 homers and 86 batted in. But he played just 123 games.
They picked up a guy last year in hopes of providing him some protection, and that was Carlos Lee. You might remember that they got from Houston. But Carlos, in 81 games, only hit 243 for the Fish and only hit 4 homers. So it wasn't like there was still a deterrent to pitching around Giancarlo.
2-2. You can find a stat that you think can tell you everything about a player. You mentioned his walks are rising, and that's certainly true. Amazingly, Stanton has been walked intentionally twice this year. To your point about protection.
No protection, yeah.
He walks here with one out, and Ruggiano will be the hitter with 2 men aboard and 1 man down.
Yeah, especially because he doesn't have any protection. You would think that that intentional number would be high, but I think it also speaks to the fact that there are teams that are willing to pitch to him off the plate a little bit, thinking he will expand his zone. And look at him standing next to Freddie Freeman. He's got 1 foot on the base. He's not standing on the base, but look how much taller and bigger he is than even Freddie.
So Justin Ruggiano hits. Tehran in some trouble. Run in, 2 on, 1 out. Marlins have hit into 111 double plays this year. Ruggiano has done that 9 times. Mile-high pop. Will McCann have a play? At the screen. no play.
I think it might have even gone off Brian's glove, but it was on the other side of the screen. So, how frustrating is that?
Breaking ball off the plate, 2-1. Ruggiano's out of Austin, Texas. Got to the big leagues for the first time in 2007 with Tampa Bay. A little squibber foul. Delta Airlines, proud sponsor of the Atlanta Braves. This is game 4 of the homestand. The Braves just swept Cleveland. They hope for good luck against the Marlins and Mets, who follow next week.
Yeah, and Cleveland went to Detroit last night, and they're trailing this evening 5-1 in the 4th inning. Sure didn't get any easier for them. Tribe is fading.
Like the Marlins, they can't hit right now. Swing and a miss. Ruggiano is out, number 2.
Beautiful breaking ball there. Started it at the middle of the plate, made him commit, and then breaks away from him. Great spot.
Two outs for Logan Morrison, who popped out in the 2nd inning. This is game 61 for Morrison. Missed most of the year coming back from knee problems. When you look at his power numbers, Joe, you have to wonder how much of that is the price of playing in the big ballpark at home in Miami.
Well, that and his injury, not having a good base under, not being able to use his lower half. Not only does he have more power than just 4 home runs, I don't think he's a 30 home run guy, but he's certainly double digits, probably in the 15 to 20 range on a normal season. But he's should be a higher average guy than 260 also.
Yelich and Stanton, the runners for Miami. And no swing. 2 balls and a strike. Morrison's another big Marlin, 6'2", 243 pounds. A 22nd round pick 8 years ago now.
As we just saw with Ruggiano, this is when Julio's been at his best this year. Runners in scoring position, a 188 mark, and with 2 out, which is the situation here, just a 131 average against him. Able to make pitches when he needs to, but behind in the count here.
And a dangerous pitch for Morrison, who 3 years ago, nearly to the day, hit his first big league home run in this ballpark.
And the infield's really playing him to pull Andrelton way up the middle. Huge hole between Simmons and Johnson there. And I tend to think of Logan Morrison as a left center field type hitter.
He takes a walk. 2 walks in the inning. And Roger McDowell will make his way to the mound. Teheran was cruising through 2 innings. The triple by Fernandez and the single by Yelich cut the lead in half. And now the bases are loaded.
You know, he had such good stuff in the first inning, gave up a hit in the second, pitched around that, recorded another strikeout. At 22, young guy, you just wonder, I mean, with all the adrenaline he had pitching against Fernandez tonight, all the talk about it, to give up a triple to the guy when he's leading 2-0, you just wonder if it may have kind of changed the way he was going about his business, where he started all of a sudden trying to be a little too careful, because he was ultra aggressive in the first 2 innings.
And now he has to retire Polanco, and that has been a very tough task for the Braves all year. Polanco now 14 hits and 37 at bats against Atlanta pitching.
Saw him hit a good fastball his first time up, take it right back at the pitcher. They'd gotten ahead of him with some breaking balls.
Nearly got hit. 1 ball, no strikes. Yelich, Stanton, and Morrison take their leads. And now an even count.
Polanco didn't play much the last time we saw these guys down in Florida. Ed Lucas was playing third base most of the time. In fact, it seems like that 3-game series, Lucas went all the way around the diamond, third to second to first on consecutive nights.
That's right. Teheran about to throw his 29th pitch of the inning. Polanco sprayed that one foul, and it's 2-2 count.
Getting a little inspiration from the fans here. A good crowd tonight.
Now the runners will get a head start. Full count pitch to Polanco coming.
It's a fastball count, fastball situation. Don't want to walk him, and a good fastball hitter at the plate.
Fly ball center. And Upton's got it. Miami loaded the bases and scored but once. It started with Jose Fernandez, his leadoff triple. Christian Yelich singled for a 2-for-2 night. And after 2.5, it's now a 2-1 game. lead.
Got a word or two from his pitching coach in the dugout too. All the starters, relievers, everybody raving about the job Roger McDowell has done for them this year. And Brian McCann talking about how he's learned so much from Brian as a catcher too.
Breaking ball over the head of Tehran. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's close, but it was a breaking ball.
To short. Echeverria makes the play. Tehran is out number 1. The Marlins are in town the rest of the weekend. We hope you'll join us for the big concert after Sunday's game. Country duo Big and Rich will perform. That concert presented by Coca-Cola and Delta. Visit Braves.com/tickets or call 800-745-3000. Note that start time on Sunday. It's an odd start time. First pitch at 5:05 p.m.
And Big and Rich after. Not a bad idea for Jordan. He has struck out each of his last 5 at bats.
Won't strike out this time. He will ground out, however. 2 down.
There was I don't know which one of the news outlets, sports outlets covering baseball, but they had a list of all of the active players in the major leagues from Cuba, and they did not have Echeverria on the list. And the broadcasters for the Marlins have been calling him the forgotten Cuban. And no one should. He is a solid major league shortstop.
He's made a couple of good plays here tonight. Elliott Johnson looks to continue a good night at the plate. He doubled and scored ahead of Freeman's homer in the first. Well, much was made of the Marlins house cleaning after last season. It was very unpopular and still is in South Florida. But I think if you evaluate those deals, they got a lot of good talent back from Toronto. Echeverria, a big part of that big transaction. And the breaking ball gets Elliott Johnson, and 4 strikeouts for Fernandez. He's now set down 8 straight Braves hitters. Top of the 4th inning. Atlanta still leads 2-1. Hubers, by Delta Airlines, and by Ford. 2-1 Atlanta. We're through 3 innings against the Marlins in game 1 of our weekend series. Big sports weekend in Atlanta. College football's underway, and the new college football show is back too. From the SEC to the Pac-12, watch James Bates and Coach Tommy Bowden every Thursday for in-depth coverage of the week's best matchups. You can catch the new college football show every Thursday at 7 on Fox Sports South.
That's a good sign. Giving Freddie Freeman one more chance.
So Echeverria, the man we spoke of a moment ago, will get things started for the Fish in the 4th. He's 24 years old. He's out of Santiago de Cuba. Played 41 games with the Jays last year and hit .254. Toronto signed him in 2010 as a non-drafted free agent. And he's down on 3 pitches. Teheran goes to the high heat and earns his 6th strikeout tonight.
Maybe he can kind of get back on track with a fresh start this inning, and after some encouragement from Roger McDowell.
Jeff Mathis looks outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Jeff turned 30 right before opening day. Veteran major league catcher.
Was another part of their season that's been disappointing was that Brantley was sent back to AAA because he was having such a hard time. I hope Brantley would be their everyday guy and Mathis would back him up.
But Mathis, I guess, is the number 1. Coy Hill was brought up from AAA the last time Miami was here.
Fish got Brantley from Detroit in the Anibal Sanchez deal. Mathis from Mariana, Florida. Where's that?
Panhandle near Panama City.
So he probably grew up a Braves fan.
Two balls, 2 strikes. That's tipped and caught. Looks like Julio's back on the beam. Back-to-back strikeouts in the 4th. And Fernandez will hit with the bases clear.
They're doing it with fastballs.
Well, your long Braves baseball on Fox Sports South is being presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. The right stuff, the low price every day.
One of the stories, yet another story on Fernandez, is how much he is enjoying being here, how much he loves playing baseball, that even on days he pitches, he doesn't go over and sit in the corner and not want anybody to talk to him. He's having a good time in the dugout with his teammates.
Sharply hit, and a nice play at third by Chris. And Fernandez just missed a 2-for-2 night. He's an all-around athlete, good player. But he trails tonight's game 2-1 because Freddie Freeman took him out of the yard in the first. He leads off the Atlanta fourth inning when we return. The Braves fourth inning.
His home run was the first in 6 starts against Fernandez, who had gone 46 innings without allowing a homer.
First pitch again, another laser to center. This one is off the fence. A stand-up double for Freddie Freeman. Hey, look at Fernandez.
Look at him. He loves this game. There was another thing against Colorado. He just dealt against the Rockies his last start. 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs. But 2 of the hits were by Todd Helton. And after the second one, he looked over at Helton and tipped his cap to him. Got to tip your cap to Freddie. That's for sure. That's 2 lasers off of him.
And a strike to Chris Johnson, who struck out his first time up.
Get him over. Get him over. Bring that lefty to the plate. Postseason type arm out there, postseason type situation, runs hard to come by. Doesn't matter where you are in the order, cleanup or otherwise. You got to do those little things right in October.
I think you said it very well about a month ago. When the Braves hitters act like hitters and not sluggers in these situations, obviously the results are very, very good.
Well, Chris is so good at inside out, outing everything. I mean, you like his chances here, but that was another really good breaking ball. Hard to inside out a breaking pitch that's going away from you.
That one was fought off foul. It's a 1-ball, 2-strike count. Braves' magic number is 17. Atlanta hopes to get some help from the Mets tonight. They're playing the Nationals. Big series in Pittsburgh with the Cardinals and Pirates squaring off. Keep you updated on those scores as the night rolls on. Little pop into foul ground at first. Logan Morrison is there and makes the catch for out number 1.
And that's disappointing for Chris, but he was trying to do the right thing that whole at bat. He just couldn't get a pitch from Fernandez to get it done. That was a breaking ball, not a real good one, but Chris is still trying to go to right field with it. Popped it up.
Brian McCann has done a lot of damage to this Marlins pitching staff this year. And his work at home against Miami is our Georgia lottery hitting the jackpot.
I'll say 8 for 19 with a couple of homers. 5 RBIs in 6 games. Chance for another one here. Told me tonight before the game he was feeling really good at the plate.
Two hits last night, including a 3-run homer off Ubaldo Jimenez. 2 hits in game 2 against Cleveland. A couple of walks and a run scored in the opening game of this homestand. It's Brian's right. He's been on base a lot, doing some serious damage.
That wasn't as hard as the breaking ball he was throwing in the first inning, but just as effective. Maybe more so because it was off speed. 82.
That ball in the dirt, it pops away from Mathis, and the throw to third is going to be late. Freddie Freeman read that well and moves up 90 feet. And now with a 2-2 count and 1 out, a fly ball could add to the Atlanta lead.
Great read by Freddie. He saw that thing going into the dirt early, and it bounced way out in front of the plate. Mathis did just about all he could to keep it in front of him, but it bounced so far away, Freddie was able to advance. 3rd wild pitch of the year.
The infield comes in. Fernandez, though, wants a new baseball.
Probably a good thing that he called time first before he threw it out.
Ripped foul. It has been speculated that Fernandez is going to have an innings limit this year, right around 170. He's approaching, well, he's got to 157 now.
We were told one more start after tonight, and that that would be against Washington when they go home after the Chicago series. Good at bat by Brian. He's seen a handful of breaking balls and had a good swing at the last one when he pulled it foul. So they came back with a fastball, and he's right on that. Upstairs, too. If that had been just a little bit lower, he'd have gotten a run in.
The good at bat continues for Brian. And now Mathis to the mound for a visit. Well, as frustrating a year as the Marlins have had offensively, their future from a pitching standpoint, Joe, looks awfully bright with this guy heading the top of a very potent rotation.
Yeah, if you're wondering there too in that conversation, his English has gotten very good after being here for 5 years now. But when he was in high school in Tampa, he was taking 3 English classes a year. The breaking ball anyway has been down and in, down and in. I don't know if they consider trying a backdoor breaking ball or not. That may have been the strategy they were talking about, though, what they're going to do. Mathis wanted a fastball up. He shook him off.
Full count. Dan Uggla's on deck. Freeman started the inning with a double. Chris Johnson popped out. Freddie took third on a wild pitch to Brian McCann. And now the count 3-2.
Fastball is his best pitch, but I don't see him giving in here. And they may have had a little trouble getting together on the sign. Mathis is the one that called time. I mean, at the very worst, if you try a breaking ball and you don't throw it for a strike and he doesn't swing, you've got first and third and a chance to still get out of the inning with a double play ball. And I don't know what that was. That was a great job by Brian to spoil it.
An 11 pitch at bat.
I think it was a changeup. Yeah, it was a straight changeup at 88.
Now Fernandez smiling at Brian McCann.
You gotta love his personality. Brian's too. Good battle.
Popped up again.
Kind of looked in the dugout there like anybody got any ideas. We're told this at bat has lasted over 5 minutes. Staying with the breaking ball. This time away. First time he's thrown it away.
Somebody's going to tip a cap whenever this sequence finishes. And the crowd loves McCann's battle here.
At some point he's just going to rear back and fog one and take his chances, isn't he? Remember earlier Mathis gave him a sign for a fastball up and he shook him off. Whoops. He was going into a stretch, and Mathis had changed the sign. Breaking ball.
And he got his man. What a battle between McCann and Fernandez. That's a second out, but the kid right-hander with a big sigh of relief as he gets a big second out.
That was the best one he threw of the sequence, too. I mean, that was just really nasty. He's just out there having fun.
Very refreshing stuff. So Uggla with 2 outs. Infield backs up to normal depth. Dan bounced out to third.
Heck of an at bat for the Braves catcher. Didn't end the way he wanted it to, but that was a tremendous pitch.
Now it's 3-0.
He'll have to tuck his shirt tail in a second.
The veteran catcher doing, I think, a real good job of trying to slow the game down for Jose in this 4th inning. As you mentioned, he changed the signs once. You saw him give the universal slow down sign, and now with a 3-0 count and a long inning, buys a little time to give Fernandez a chance to catch his breath, and he'll go ahead and walk Uggla intentionally and go after B.J. Upton.
He strikes out more guys than Tehran, but he also walks more guys than Julio. He had 25 more strikeouts than Tehran coming in, and he had walked 12, now 13 more guys. Chuck Hernandez, his pitching coach.
I don't think plan A for the Marlins was to have this kid make the opening day roster. Remember, Henderson Alvarez and I think it was Nate Eovaldi got hurt in the latter days of spring training.
That's correct.
And there was a lot of hemming and hawing. Okay, do we bring this kid up now or do we let him go to AAA? Well, they made the decision that he was the best guy and the most ready guy to join the rotation. And the phone call that told Fernandez he was getting to the big leagues came from Jeffrey Loria. This kid was at the shopping mall. Took the phone call, went into his car, broke into tears that he made the opening day roster for the Miami club. And now a 10-game winner for a club that's won 49 games all year. First and third, 2 outs. Good stop by Mathis, 1-0.
Well, and the thing that he was doing in the minor leagues was no different than what he's doing here. His collective record in the minor leagues 14-2 with a 2.02 ERA in the minor leagues.
There's the breaking ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He's gone to that rosin bag quite a bit, though, tonight. Some of that dirt from his head-first slide on a triple back in the 3rd inning.
.27 pitches this inning. About half of those were to Brian McCann. BJ walks, and the Braves have him loaded with 2 out. The Braves have shined all year with the bases loaded. Andrelton Simmons has 2. He's 3 for 9 with a Brave at every base this year. And he's 0 for 1 tonight.
We showed you too the graphic at the beginning of the game, the home road splits for Fernandez. Undefeated at home. He's 3 and 5 on the road.
Gave up 2 in the first. The Braves trying to add to a 1-run lead in the 4th. Ground ball slowly hit left side. Echeverria fires to second in time, and an eyelash ahead of BJ Upton. Fernandez had a long 4th inning. The Braves loaded the bases but cannot break through. Top of the Miami order comes up in the 5th inning. It's still a 2-1 game. At the start of the broadcast is living up to the advanced billing.
Julio Teheran's got the better of it thanks to a Freddie Freeman 2-run homer in the first that had come right after Elliott Johnson had doubled with 1 out. Freddie got a high fastball out away from him, bounced it off the top of the fence and into the center field bleachers. But how about this? The pitcher, Fernandez, into the right center field gap. And a lovely head first slide. He had a triple and scored on the base hit by Yelich.
I think his pitching coach was real happy with the head first slide.
Probably no one in that dugout happy with that.
But it worked out as the man in the batter's box brought him home with a run scoring hit. That was in the 3rd as Christian Yelich is behind 0-1.
We're still looking, but from our crack research staff, Drew, he tells me that we believe that the at bat by Brian McCann was tied for the longest in the major leagues this year, 15 pitches.
Really?
With former Brave Jeff Baker, who's now at Texas.
Teheran had a long 3rd, had a 1-2-3 4th. He hopes for good work in the 5th. And Yelich took high, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Big strike zone for Christian. He's 6'4", 190 pounds.
He waited on that pitch nicely, but may have done Julio a favor. That didn't look like a strike. Breaking ball that was not going to make it back to the plate.
Swing and a miss. Perfect night for Yelich is over. That is 8 strikeouts for Tehran. 1 away for Donovan Solano. Time for our trivia question. It's brought to you by our friends at AT&T Uverse. Tonight's question is: Ed Lucas is one of 3 current National League players that played in the Ivy League. Name the other 2.
Current National League players. Craig Breslow, I think, is now back in the American League with Boston. He pitched at Yale, but I think he's still in the American League.
One ball, 1 strike for Donovan Solano. He has struck out and grounded out tonight.
When Julio has a couple of different breaking balls like he has tonight, and like the off-speed slider he threw Yelich to get him, he is so tough.
Is that hard to do, to vary your speed as a pitcher on your slider?
I would think so. I would think so, but he does a great job of it. I mean, some guys throw a curveball and a slider, but they're 2 different pitches. But for a guy to be able to change speed on the same pitch is pretty good.
Ground ball sharply hit to second. And Uggla gets his second base counterpart, Solano, for the second out. We invite you to celebrate the legend of Evan Gattis at El Oso Blanco Night Dos on Friday, September 13th at Turner Field. Tickets are $32. They include an outfield ticket, an El Oso Blanco t-shirt, and a foam bear claw. Get your tickets today at Braves.com/Gattis. Stanton pops up the first pitch. Simmons deep short, foul ground. He calls off Chris and makes the play. 3 up, 3 down for Julio Tehran. He will lead off the bottom of the 5th with a 1-run lead. Teheran and Fernandez throw strike for strike. We'll see fireworks after the ball game. For the Braves added their lead. Let's check out tonight's DirecTV standings update. There is a race involving the Braves, and that's for the best record in the league.
And it's nice with this 4-game winning streak now for the Braves. They've gotten that lead back up to 3. Nice, comfortable margin over both the Dodgers and Cardinals. Pittsburgh's whipping up on the Cardinals tonight, 5-0.
Liriano's pitching that game. I think we're seeing a trend when you face the Cardinals. If you can, throw a lefty at them. And Liriano's having a great year. Pittsburgh bouncing ball to first. Teheran will be retired by Logan Morrison. That's the first out of the inning.
Only 2 hits allowed by Liriano through 7 innings.
Really? They signed him for $1 million.
Several players changed hands today, though, didn't they?
Yeah, some waiver deals took place. We talked about the Indians looking for offense. They got Jason Kubel from Arizona. The Cardinals added John Axford from Milwaukee to try to help out their beleaguered bullpen.
Which makes me wonder if Mujica is really okay.
Right. And Michael Morse, the former Nat and former Mariner, goes back to the Beltway. The Baltimore Orioles added slugger Michael Morse. They're looking for some help at the DH spot, and he can play the outfield too.
If he's healthy, he'll help them a lot in that bandbox in Baltimore.
I know fans are wondering, are the Braves thinking about or trying to add somebody before September 1st through the waiver process? The answer to that is yes. If there is a disadvantage to having the best record in the league, the Braves may be experiencing that. Because any help they try to add, they get to pick last or get.
Every other team has to pass on that player
before it gets to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And with the Pirates and the Reds and the Dodgers and the Cardinals, twofold process: improve their team, but also stop the Braves from improving theirs. And the importance of the deadline tomorrow is any player that you have in your organization by September 1st is eligible for postseason play. If you acquire them after September 1st, they can play. But once the playoffs come, they're ineligible. Eighty pitches for Fernandez.
Look at that. So right through the bill of his cap.
And we're headed through the lineup for a third time. Initial impressions of Fernandez.
Well, the breaking ball has been the most impressive to me. I don't think his fastball command's been as good. And other than the first inning, his velocity hasn't been as high as I expected. But that doesn't mean I think he's chopped liver. It was 95.
You could find a way to have him on your staff if you had a
think so.
big league team.
I think so. And I just love his personality. I think that is a great combination of his ability. And we hear about him too, signing autographs after games until every kid has an autograph. He doesn't rush to the clubhouse. He sits there and up and down the railing.
Sharply hit, and a sinking line drive is speared at second by Solano. Ellie Johnson's hit the ball hard twice tonight. We head to inning number 6. The duel continues in Atlanta. The Braves leading 2-1. Home Depot, and by Toyota. 2-1 game. We're through 5. One thing we will look forward to against the Marlins the rest of this season and in future years, Joe, are terrific pitching matchups. These two staffs have outstanding young starters, and we'll see 2 more of them tomorrow in Game 2.
Jacob Turner lost to Brandon Beachy the last time he was at Turner Field. He got shut out 5-0, but he's got a good arm. He throws hard. He's the slowest tosser of the 3 the Braves will see. He tops out at about 95. Mike Minor goes for his 14th win. He's been outstanding, and he's pitched well against the Fish all year.
Those are your Chevron probable starters tomorrow night. Ruggiano, first pitch off the glove of Johnson. Simmons backs it up and makes a perfect throw.
Got to have good balance to be able to do this. Break hard to the hole, stop, and still make the play. Well done. Great ricochet by Chris Johnson, by the way.
Here's Morrison. Logan's popped out and walked. And he jumps on the first pitch and rips it foul.
Nathan Eovaldi, who pitches here Sunday for the Marlins, pitched a 7-inning, 1-hit shutout while he was in the ball game against the Braves when he was here, and retired the last 14 in a row. And he'll go against Alex Wood. That'll be a good matchup too.
That's why there's some around baseball who think the Marlins, if they can spend some money and get some offense in their organization and at the major league level, can really make a quicker turnaround in National League Eastern Division play next season, because their starting pitching has the potential to be overpowering, quite frankly. But you can't win if you don't score runs, and the Marlins again have a sub 3-run total tonight, something they've done in their last 8 consecutive outings.
What will be interesting to see is if they were to go out and spend some money and get a couple of hitters that they desperately need, if the fans will come back. They're next to last in attendance to Tampa, and the fans are so turned off by the ownership that it would be interesting to see if they put a competitive team on the field, if fans would come back.
And I don't live in South Florida, don't follow the Marlins other than when they play the Braves. It's really unfortunate for the young players on their team to find themselves in that circumstance.
It does. It will next year. This year, there are so many young guys in this organization getting a chance to play that, especially when some of them like Yelich and Marisnik got here, the writing was on the wall. They were not going to be able to turn the season around. So the idea is get some experience, get ready, and play better next year.
Morrison walks. That's the first base runner since Logan Morrison walked in the 3rd inning.
So from a fan standpoint, these young players, in my view, are working so hard to try to get better, make sure they stay here, that they are contributing parts of this organization, to this team. And then next year, if they're winning and playing well and their fans aren't showing up, then they'll probably wonder what's going on. And it won't be hard for anybody to explain to them.
Polanco is singled and has flied to center. That flyout came with the bases loaded, and Simmons, what a play! That's 2 Webb gems in this inning. And listen to the crowd, a standing ovation for Simmons.
As it should be. There have been some really good shortstops that have played for the Atlanta Braves. And I would, at least in my 22 years, put Rafael Furcal at the top of the heap. But I don't know that Andrelton Simmons is not passing Rafael Furcal on that list.
Echeverria is the Marlins shortstop, and he pops one up into center field. B.J. Upton is under it and has it. Teheran pitches around a 1-out walk. He's through 6 innings with a 1-run lead, and the heart of the order is coming up. That's your Delta Airlines on-deck trio. Let's see if they can add to the 2-1 advantage. Our SunTrust shining moment.
It's only lasted 2 pitches. McCann's lasted 15 and 1 at bat. This was a 1-pitch homer in the first inning. And then in the 4th inning, a 1-pitch double. And Fernandez couldn't believe what he was seeing. This one almost went out. And a nice smile at Freddie, who acknowledged it. So let's see what happens here.
He swung at the first pitch and lined it foul.
This is outstanding. Gave him a sign like, okay, fastball. But not another one. See, Freddie's loving this too. The players are acknowledging that he's just having fun. There's no animosity. There's no ugliness about it. It's just fun.
Isn't it nice when you see that?
Yeah, it's refreshing, like you said. It just, this kid's got it all.
And it'll be our good fortune to watch him pitch a lot. We may not like the result every time, but you're right. He's a real breath of fresh air.
By the way, upon further review, 16 pitches the most this year by 1 at bat. Justin Smoke of the Mariners. What would really be fun is if he makes a good pitch and Freddie does one of those lunging, reaching little flares somewhere for a hit, and then see his reaction. That was his changeup at 88.
And a breaking ball got him. So Freddie's 2 for 3 tonight. And that's 7 strikeouts for Fernandez.
He's won 2 battles tonight against Freeman and McCann, and each time he won it with a breaking ball.
Chris has struck out and popped out. And that went off the glove of Mathis to the screen. Good news tonight. The Mets help the Braves. New York 3, Washington 2. That's a final. Braves' magic number now at 16. It could be 15 if they hold on and win this game tonight. A squibber out toward Morrison at first. And Fernandez to the bag for out number 2.
It almost ran past the bag before he got the ball.
Brian McCann will be the hitter. And we'll remind you that all year long, Braves baseball on Fox Sports South is being presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. The right stuff, the low price, every day. And here we go again with the foul balls by Brian McCann.
Another item you might like at home about this kid is that we're told he's already the most active Marlin in the community. Trips to hospitals. He has groups of kids that come to games and treats them. Already out there and already appreciating being here.
And a much easier time with Brian McCann in the 6th inning. He has struck out 8 Braves. He retires the side in order, and he's due second in the 7th. Will Fernandez continue on? He's down only a run in his debut against the Braves tonight. Come up. We'll remind you that Fox Sports is proud to partner with Johns Hopkins Medicine, one of this year's Fox Sports Supports charities. Johns Hopkins is at the forefront of groundbreaking research into autoimmune disorders like multiple sclerosis and lupus. Join us in the fight against autoimmune diseases. Donate now by visiting hopkinsmedicine.org/Fox.
Manager and pitcher having a good time.
And yes, Jose Fernandez is 215 pounds soaking wet. Saw the bill of his cap a little while ago. He really worked up a lot of perspiration. And Juan Pierre's in the on-deck circle, so Fernandez's night appears to be over. Mathis pops one up to second. Uggla drifts back and makes the one-handed catch. That's out number one.
You know, Julio's only had one bad inning, and it was touched off by that leadoff triple by the pitcher. Gave up an RBI single after that, and then walked a couple of guys, but left them loaded. And since then, he's been on cruise control. Only one man has reached base since the third inning, and that was the walk to Morrison last inning. Is that it?
So Julio Teheran at 98 pitches will be taken down. Maybe Freddie Gonzalez trying to save a few innings for Julio Teheran, who leaves with a one-run lead. 2-1 is your score. The Braves bullpen has been dominant. They'll be in play in the seventh inning. Big cheer for Julio. We'll come back and tell you who's on the hill for Atlanta right after this. One-run ball. He leaves with the bases empty, and he's in line to win it if the Braves bullpen can shut down the Marlins the rest of the way. The first man to answer the AT&T call to the bullpen is left-hander Scott Downs. He'll go after Juan Pierre and then Christian Yelich.
We've been singing Scott's praises for his work since he came to Atlanta. A lot of specialty work against left-handed hitters, and he'll have to deal with a fast runner here in Juan Pierre. Downs was in 2 of the games against Cleveland here on this homestand. An inning and 2/3, zeros across, no walks, 3 strikeouts. This is his 15th game with Atlanta.
The ageless wonder, Juan Pierre, is the hitter. 13 major league seasons for Juan, and he can still do that. Pierre has over 2,000 major league hits. Broke in with the Rockies in 2000. His first go round with the Marlins was in 2003. A year with the Cubs, 3 years with the Dodgers, 2 with the White Sox. Last year hit .307 with the Phillies. A lifetime .295 hitter.
I didn't realize his career average was that high. AJ Ramos loosening up. He'll be next, and he's been lighting up the radar gun too and striking out a bunch of guys.
Two quick strikes from Scott Downs to Juan Pierre. And a bouncing ball right side. Freeman's got it. Downs to the bag. 2 out.
Time for Georgia Power Energy Tip number 13. Georgia Power's home energy improvement program. Customers can get up to a $300 rebate for making qualifying attic insulation upgrades. To learn more, go to georgiapower.com/home improvements. Jose Constanza, number 13.
Very nice. Yelich 2 for 3 with an RBI hit. We won't know till after the game the rationale for Freddie Gonzalez taking Tehran out of the game, but I'm guessing the Braves want to try to limit his innings a little bit, get him a little extra rest. Last year he threw about 138 innings, 163 innings in 2011. He's at 161 innings now with a month left.
Well, and we talked last night with Tom Glavine about if there's a guy in the rotation right now that they might consider skipping a turn, it would probably be Julio for those reasons. And let's face it, turning it over to the Braves bullpen is not such a bad idea on any given night in a close ball game.
Yelich down to his last strike in the top of the 7th.
I didn't ask Freddie before the game if Craig Kimbrell would be available tonight. He's worked 3 straight games, picked up 3 straight saves.
Hopefully Jordan Walton would be able to go. He's been battling a groin problem for about a week or so. Buzzing inside. It's a full count. It's final in Pittsburgh. They beat the Cardinals 5-0. Liriano shut out Shelby Miller and the Cardinals at PNC Park. Well, you know they had to be going crazy there. Pittsburgh now tied atop the Central with St. Louis. And Downs lost Yelich. A 2-out walk brings Donovan Solano to the plate. And it also brings Freddie Gonzalez out of the Braves dugout. So the tying run aboard, a fast runner in Yelich. Luis Ayala was loosening up. He may be summoned next. Downs will be taken out of the game with the Braves still ahead by a run. powered by Crown Royal and by AT&T. Joe and Chip with you from Turner Field. Atlanta 2, Miami 1. First game of a big sports weekend for the Braves. They've already swept Cleveland on the homestand. Braves try to make it 4 in a row and earn their 82nd victory of the year tonight. Luis Ayala, the third pitcher to work. He'll face Donovan Solano with Christian Yelich at first and 2 out.
Luis inherits a runner and won a ground ball, which is what he is best at.
And so now, Joe, with about a month of baseball left and the Braves this comfortable division lead, do these games in September kind of revert back to spring training mode in the sense that you are really auditioning for a role on the postseason roster? Or is...
In some ways, I think you do. Certainly, it's not a spring training mode with respect to how the games are played.
Absolutely.
But I get your point on how you whittle your roster down to 25 guys.
Bouncing ball. There is the ground ball, and it was hit to the perfect guy, Andrelton Simmons. And Ayala gets Teheran and Downs out of the 7th inning with a 1-run lead. We stretch at Turner Field. Julio in line to win his 11th. Well, partner, 2 rookie starters pitch like seasoned veterans in game 1 of this series tonight.
I don't think either guy disappointed anyone at the ballpark tonight with what they were expecting from each of them. 8 strikeouts for Julio, 8 strikeouts for Jose. Outstanding work. The difference is a Freddie Freeman homer in the 1st inning.
So neither starter remains in the game. It's a battle of the bullpens, and A.J. Ramos out of Texas Tech is on to pitch.
Ramos has 73 strikeouts, tied with Cody Allen for the 2nd highest strikeout total among Major League rookie relievers, behind Trevor Rosenthal.
Ramos injured his elbow ligament at Texas Tech his junior year. The Marlins signed him for $1,500. He was a starting pitcher in college. He has been a reliever his entire professional career. Last year, like many of his current Marlins teammates, made the jump from Double-A to the big leagues. Saved 21 games at Double-A for the Marlins. And he gives up a fly ball to left off the bat of Dan Uggla. That'll drop cleanly. Yelich looked like he was caught in between whether to dive for it or play it safe. Uggla's glad he chose the latter option.
I think he might have lost it in the lights right there at the end too. Right here when he pulled up. Yeah, you're right. I'm not sure the lights were involved at all. He just decided not to go for it and wished he had.
So a leadoff hit for Dan. That's the 4th Braves hit of the game and their first since the 4th inning.
Ramos tops out at 96 miles an hour, has a slider and a changeup.
Upton with a bunt, and it's a beauty. Nobody at the first base bag, and all hands are safe.
Boy, that was a good bunt. And it was all intended to be a sacrifice bunt. He wound up with a base hit on top of it. And Ramos not fast enough to beat BJ to the bag.
Chuck Fernandez on his way to the mound to talk to Ramos. You've got Simmons up there, and then the Braves can go to the bench. Look who's in the on-deck circle. It is, after all, El Oso Blanco night.
There's some white bear paws out there in left field doing the chop tonight, too. Love it.
Let's see what Simmons has in mind here. Gaddis on deck. It's a bunt situation if the Braves won. But Andrelton's had good luck overall. 3 for 5 against Ramos. It's a bunt. It's back to the mound, and it was beautiful. Sacrifice, 2nd and 3rd, and here comes Gaddis.
Beautiful execution by the Braves this inning from BJ and from Andrelton. Tell you, if they walk Gaddis here, those fans in left field are going to be mighty upset. And that's what's going to happen.
The cheer for Gaddis, but the boos for the base on balls.
They have a lefty loose in their bullpen. Dan Jennings. Might see him next against Schaefer. This guy reminds me, Ramos. Remember Rudy Cianez? Reminds me a lot of Rudy.
So the bases are loaded. There's one out. Jordan Schaefer is the Braves hitter. Jennings appears ready. Let's see if Mike Redmond's going to make the change or if he'll stick with Ramos against Jordan. And that's your answer. Ramos has been very impressive this year, but a leadoff blue pit to Uggla, a bunt single by Upton, who was trying to sacrifice. A Simmons sacrifice bunt, and now an intentional walk to Evan Gattis as the bases loaded for the Braves in the 7th, trying to extend a 2-1 lead. Beat B.J. Upton to the bag on a sacrifice attempt, so he leaves with the bases loaded. Atlanta up by a run, trying to add to a 2-1 advantage, and hopefully a big lead will be the final result. We'll talk about that with you on Braves Live, presented by AT We'll hear from Freddie Gonzalez. We'll get sound from the locker room, and we'll enjoy tonight's highlights. There were plenty of them. Good pitching matchup, fun game tonight. Tehran versus Fernandez, Braves and Marlins, game 1.
Dan Jennings' last couple of outings have been good. He's not allowed a run his last 2 outings, but 3 outings before that he gave up at least 1 run in all 3. Suffered his first career loss here July 2nd against the Braves. Fastball slider guy, low 90s fastball. Lefties are actually hitting him better than right-handers. 288 average for left-handers, 228 for right-handers. Let's see how the Braves played here with Jordan Schaefer. Middle infield is back.
Speaking of auditions, this is one for Jordan Schaefer. What has been a breakout year for him. It's important to note his struggles against left-handed pitching. He's 2 for 21 against lefties this year. 1 ball, no strikes. Bouncing ball to Logan Morrison. He fumbled for a moment. The throw to the plate in time to erase Dan Uggla. And the Braves will remain hitting with the bases loaded, but now there are 2 out.
Well, that was a very calm and collected Logan Morrison on that play. As you mentioned, that ball rolled around a little bit in his glove, but he didn't panic. A little bit of an in-between hop there, but made a good throw to Mathis to get Uggla.
Elliott Johnson stung the ball twice. He doubled with 1 out in the first and scored on Freeman's homer. He also lined out to second in the 5th inning.
Three wild pitches for this guy. That's not out of the realm of possibility, too.
Swing and a miss. Johnson has seen Jennings before. He's 0 for 1. Mathis smothered that. 2 balls, 2 strikes. This is the second time tonight the Braves have had the bases loaded. They have yet to score. Marlins in the 8th will have their 3, 4, and 5 hitters due up. Pitch of decision, full count.
We got ahead of him quickly too with a good 93 fastball down and in, and then a slider that Elliott chased that was probably not in the zone, a little low, and now he's wasted too many.
And he struck him out. Jennings comes on and restores order for Miami. We are through 7. This good ball game continues at Turner Field. 2-1 Atlanta in front.
Coors Light freeze cam. This is an interesting one tonight. Foul ball behind the plate. I mean, it was a mile high. Can off at the mask, comes back. He's at the screen and caught it. Well, kinda. The ball was actually on the fan side of the screen when it hit Brian's glove. It was that close to being back in the field of play. That was a Coors Light freeze cam brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light.
So the battle of the bullpens continues. Anthony Vivaro is the 3rd reliever to work for the Braves. Anthony has been well rested. His last game was August 24th against the Cardinals. And he has given up runs in each of his last 3 outings dating back to August 17th.
Four straight outings of giving up runs. Leads you to believe that he's due for a good one.
And a tough 8th. Stanton, Ruggiano, and Logan Morrison are up. Stanton's 0 for 2 with a walk. And a ball high.
He has not pitched since the Cardinal series on the 24th, so he's had plenty of rest.
That's a big strike zone.
Sorry, Chip. With Walden questionable again, I mean, this is a real inning of responsibility for Anthony.
Two balls and a strike. And Stanton drives one down the right field line. That ball's curling and foul. 2-2.
You were talking earlier, Chip, about more or less auditions, September auditions, and I think in the past when Bobby Cox was the manager, he always during the season 99% of the time went with two catchers, but he always went with three catchers in the postseason. So there was always that question of, okay, how many infielders will the Braves carry, how many relievers, since you know he's going to add a third catcher. Well, the Braves already have three catchers this year and have had all year.
Popped up again to the screen. Again, McCann will be just a little shy.
So it's not so much, I don't think it's so much the makeup of how many relievers, how many infielders. I think the number will be consistent with what the team has carried all year long on their 25-man roster. It's just a matter of who those people are going to be. You know, how and when will Jason Hayward be available?
2-2 for Stanton. And a fly ball into shallow right field's going to drop. A blue pit for Giancarlo Stanton, and he represents the tying run. So an inauspicious start for Varvaro. Now you have to face the hottest Marlin hitter, although Ruggiano tonight has been cooled off. He's 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. Strike one.
Looked like a changeup from Anthony. Good one. David Carpenter's worked 2 nights in a row. Gave up a run last night. Luis Avilan got last night off, but had worked in 2 straight games. And for the last 5 games.
If I'm a guessing man, I'm guessing Avilan would be the guy to close it out.
If Kimbrel's not available, right. Yeah. But going back to the last 3 games, 11 pitches Tuesday, 8 on Wednesday. I'm not sure how many last night, but not too many. It was a 3 up, 3 down inning.
Fly ball right. Schaefer drifts back. And at the edge of the track makes the grab. Stanton's going to tag and try. Close play. He's out.
When you're having a rough time at the plate, you can't let it affect your defense. And Giancarlo Stanton went in there standing up. That helped also. But this is a tremendous throw by Jordan, who had to backpedal a little bit and make this throw really falling away from the infield. Talk about a strong arm. Why in the world would he go in there standing up?
Now Logan Morrison pops the next pitch up left side. Simmons drifts out. He's under it, and he's got it.
What a play by Schaefer.
Jordan throws out a runner at second base for the 2nd consecutive game. Remember, he got Brantley and Cleveland last night. He gets Stanton in a key situation in the 8th tonight. 2-1 game. The Atlanta eighth. He's gone after the first pitch 3 straight at bats and does it again and fouls it to the left side.
Well, he's hitting like 450 on the first pitch, so why not?
Freeman's seen Jennings a lot. He's 2 for 10 against him in his career. And a ball and a strike. Now the count. Freddie on the Johnny Manziel rest plan. Took half the game off last night. He is obviously refreshed with a 2 for 3 game tonight. Now 2-2. I like this guy on the Marlins staff too. Dan Jennings trying to keep the Braves where they are. 2-1 lead, and he just missed. Full count. Bet you didn't know Freddie Freeman's crept into the top 10 in the batting chase. Came in at 308. He's at 310 now. Because he can do that. Hits lefties well. Goes line to line. It was said of Freeman in spring training, there are a lot of folks who think this guy could hit and win a batting title. Or hit 4 and win a batting title. Having a 300+ year this year.
He's fighting off 93 fastballs to the outside corner, maybe just even a little bit off the plate.
Swing and a miss. Jennings gets his man. 1 away in the Atlanta 8th. Let's get back to our AT&T U-verse trivia question. That's Ed Lucas. And he's one of 3 current National League players that played in the Ivy League. Name the other 2.
I got one.
Okay.
Will Venable, San Diego. He was a basketball player too. And a guy who, my second choice, was not an Ivy Leaguer, but he went to Duke, so he was smart. Chris Capuano. So those are my 2 choices.
Dexter Fowler was going to go to Harvard and play basketball, but I don't think that's going to count
there.
So it's going to be.
We've still got a minute to think about it.
Okay, good.
Change.
So tweet me an answer, folks. I need the help. 2-1 Atlanta lead. because then he wouldn't be the subject of a trivia question that is proving to be almost impossible to answer for us tonight. He's one of 3 current National League players that played in the Ivy League. Name the other 2. You're going to stick with Venable.
Venable, and I had Chris Young too from Princeton, but he's not in the big league. So.
I'm going to say Alex Wood because he went to the Yale of the SEC. Does that count?
Yeah, good luck with that one. No, wouldn't have gotten him.
Nope. And here are the active major leaguers from the Ivy League.
Yeah, we had D-Row. We knew about him, but he's in the American League. Breslow, we had him. We didn't have Herman. Was Herman here when they came to town? I didn't see him on the roster. Was he? Oh, he's on the DL. That's kind of active, I guess. But that's American League. That wasn't part of the question.
Part of the question. So we can't. Well, we can complain, but we won't.
Okay. Well, we got one. I think that's pretty good. We got one of those guys.
That's a win. Plus, you paid tuition for somebody that went to an Ivy League school. That's a definite win. So here's Qualls facing Chris Johnson with the bases empty and 1 out. Qualls had one of the lighter moments in Marlins history this season. And we'll show you a fist pump you will have to see to believe.
Some would call it a lighter moment. Some would call it sad. Qualls been around a long time. Still throws hard. Mid-90s and a slider.
Two balls, no strikes to Chris. And up and away. And a 4-pitch walk. And Qualls wants to know where that one was.
How can you complain when you miss badly on 3 in a row? That one wasn't even that close either. But our understanding is he complains a lot about a lot of stuff. Here it is. Here's your fist pump. Oops. I meant to do that. The next day they had the yellow tape out in his uni, and he didn't think it was real funny. I thought it was hilarious.
I don't know if those were his kids or not, but wouldn't you have had a Dad? What's this all about, man? So McCann hits with a man aboard, and Qualls pumps over a fastball. There's a strike. Paul Janisch pinch runs, by the way, and he'll come in defensively for the 9th inning. Nice crowd tonight, 28,255. They'll stick around for post-game fireworks. We've seen 18 strikeouts so far tonight. 8 of them by Tehran, 8 of them by Fernandez, 2 by Dan Jennings. And only 3 runs, 10 hits total. Double play ball to Solano. Echeverria, the easy turn. And Qualls a nice job to get the Braves in the 8th inning. We go to the 9th. Who will try to close it out for Atlanta? The Braves lead 2-1. We'll find out with you next. Freddie Freeman's first inning home run has stood up for the Braves so far.
Not a lot of runs scored tonight, and a lot of it was early. A double by Johnson, Elliott Johnson, in the first inning was followed by a first pitch homer from Freddie Freeman. For Freddie, his 17th of the year. He's up to 87 RBIs. And the Fish got their run on a leadoff triple by the pitcher. Look at him going in head first at first base. And then Christian Yelich delivered him with a base hit to left field. That's it on the scoring. 2-1. All zeros since. Paul Janisch in at third base. And Anthony Barbaro still in there looking for his first big league save.
And the bottom part of the order in the ninth inning. Placido Polanco backs away from ball one. So that tells you Kimbrel's unavailable after working 3 in a row and in 4 of the last 5 days for the Braves. Carpenter's had a relatively heavy workload too. And our guess is that Jordan Walden unavailable tonight too.
And Avilan. Even though Avilan pitched the first 2 games of the Cleveland series, he did not pitch last night. So an effort to give him 2 days in a row. You got to have other people step up when you have to give guys some rest. Tonight it's up to Anthony and a chance to get his first big league save.
He has pitched the ninth inning before in the minor leagues. 29 career saves in his minor league career. And he's off to a good start. He gets Polanco on a jam shot back to the mound. 1 out.
And Polanco had a little hissy fit. Fired the bat in the ground. Mad that he got jammed. Boy, that first out in the ninth is so big in a 1-run game. Dang bat.
Here's Echeverria. The Miami shortstop 0 for 3 tonight. Braves this year 21-14 in 1-run games. The Marlins 18-27. Fly ball center, playable for BJ. 2 out in the ninth. Echeverria 0 for 4, and here's Jeff Mathis, we presume.
Might be Greg Dobbs.
Yep, they'll take Mathis down and go with the left-hand hitting Greg Dobbs.
Fans on their feet, though. They're trying to help Anthony get his first big league save.
Dobbs a tough out off the bench. He's 9 for 36 as a pinch hitter with 6 RBIs. Fly ball right field. Deep. Not deep enough.
Wow.
The Braves win it.
Woo. That one left the bat a little scary.
Anthony Barbaro will never forget his first big league save. He nails down win number 11 for Julio Teheran. The Braves extend their lead in the East to 14 games. They trim their magic number to 15 now. That's coupled with Washington's loss. And the Braves still a perfect homestand. Not a lot of offense, but just enough to beat Jose Fernandez, the young Marlins phenom, tonight. 2-1 your final score. We'll recap it for you from Atlanta after this.